Now, the problem is some of those people are scary, those people. Some of the people that I'm not familiar with that lifestyle, they're going to be scary. And that's where I get with the demon thing. The Bible tells us that there was a demon, okay? Don't let that freak you out. Sometimes I bring that up and people are like, oh, do I have a demon? Do I have a demon? Listen. It's about the degree of stuff that's living inside of us. That's really all it is. The Bible says our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but it is against the rulers and the authorities and against the powers of this dark world and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. The power of darkness is all around us. So it doesn't matter whether it's a demon or whatever. I mean, we've all asked ourselves this week, how does Bruce Jenner go from the cover of Wheaties to the cover of Vanity Fair? I mean, you can't unsee that picture, am I right? Does he have the gender demon? Is it a mental illness? What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter. The chemicals in his brain are not matching up with the chemicals in his body. And if you don't know somebody who suffers from gender dysphoria, then you can't possibly understand. And really, unless you suffer from it, you can't possibly understand. I have a good friend who, after a long life, finally admitted that he has suffered from this all of his life. And when he was telling me, walking me through the suicide rate for people that are in that situation, and the suicide rate for people who have sex changes, I mean, the whole mental thing that's going on in there. When he started talking about being age 5, walking into a public place and not knowing whether he should go to the men's or women's bathroom, I started realizing that there's a lot of people with a lot of things going on in the world that I don't know and I don't understand, but that doesn't mean I don't go be Jesus to them. I'm not saying that Bruce/Caitlin is handling things the right way or the wrong way. I'm saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a demon, it doesn't matter if it's a mental illness, it doesn't matter if it is my sin nature. We all have it to a different degree or another. I don't want to dress like a woman, but I am tempted to look too long at women who aren't dressed enough, okay? I have that problem, and I'm really thankful for Blackhawks season because all the women are wearing their Patrick Kane jerseys around, covering everything up. That's what I like. Just wear them all summer long, okay? That'll help me out. What I'm saying is, I've got a Mr. Hyde living inside of me. You got a Mr. Hyde living inside of you. We can't be Dr. Jekyll all the time. There is a sin nature that is inside, and that's why we know Jesus. We need Jesus. All right. The Apostle Paul, who I would class as probably one of the best Christians of all time. I mean, yeah, he used to kill Christians, but he got converted, and he wrote most of the New Testament. He said, I know that nothing good lives in me. That is my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. That sound familiar? For what I do is not the good I want to do. No, the evil I don't want to do, I keep on doing. It is the sin living in me that does it. So like we've been saying all along, what we need to do is stop judging people who have different issues than us. And the problem here is that when I don't understand the problem, somebody else's problem, I'm more likely to judge them and I'm less likely to go want to be around them. And you talk about, of all the people that you would not necessarily want to be around, it's this guy, right? Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. I don't want to have anything to do with this guy, but that's where Jesus goes. Actually, Jesus was usually misplaced with people who were misplaced. That's usually who he hung out with. Why? Because they're the ones that needed a doctor. And the interesting thing about Mark 5 is this is probably the most misplaced place that Jesus ever goes. Because the cemetery, he's at the tombs. This is not just a scary place, it's also an unclean place. If you understood Judaism, you couldn't be around the dead because then you would be unclean and you couldn't go worship. That's where Jesus was. You put that together with the context. You got to remember to read the Bible in context. If you read this in context, what it actually says is that Jesus was probably not just in the least likely place he ought to be with his disciples, but he went there at night. Think about this. There's no Mark 4 and no Mark 5 in the Bible, all right, when it was written. We added that along the way. So back it up just a few verses into Mark 4. That day, still the same day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat, and other boats were with him. And a furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, and the boat was nearly swamped, and Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on the cushion because he's not afraid. And the disciples woke him up and said, Teacher, don't you care if we drown? And he got up, and he rebuked the wind and the waves. And he said to the waves, Quiet, be still. And the wind died down, and it was completely calm. And he said to his disciples, Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? And they were terrified and asked each other, Who is this? That even the wind and the waves obey him. I mean, they believe he's the Messiah. They've seen him do some other miracles, but now he can just get up and say, hey, knock it off, and the storm quits, okay? Don't stop. We keep right on reading. They went across, this is Mark 5, across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. The Sea of Galilee is 8 miles across. It's really not a sea, it's just a lake, okay? It's 8 miles across. So all I can discern from here is that when they went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes, if they got in the boat in the evening, it's still nighttime. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. Okay. That day, he says to his disciples, hey, let's go over and do this. Let's go over and see what's going on. I mean, and on the way, he calms the storm. Okay, put this picture together. They're already freaked out. They're already terrified, the Bible says, because Jesus can talk to lightning. And Jesus says, hey, I got an idea. Let's land in the cemetery and talk to Freddy Krueger. Here's why this is important. If you want to follow Jesus, he might take you to some scary places. Some really crazy, scary places. Christianity is not for wimps. A lot of preachers that will tell you that following Jesus is going to make your life less scary. Do you see that? This man, he lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day, among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. I don't know if you watch The Walking Dead or not, but the idea is not to go into the place where the walkers are. You want to try to avoid them.